Brooklyn Independent Television.
Brooklyn is home to one of the most polluted waterways in America, but it's getting a cleanup. We revisit a report from Sonia Moghe on the controversy surrounding the Gowanus Canal Superfund.
To some, the Gowanus Canal is the Venice of New York City, but it just happens to be one of the most polluted sites in the nation. That's not stopping the Toll Brothers, who want to turn this polluted waterway into these luxury condominiums as soon as possible.
To find sites, big sites to do developments on, it's often areas that had previously been zoned manufacturing.
Manufactured gas plants used to operate in the area, dumping hazardous chemicals into the canal that are still there today.
These plants, which date back to the 1860s in some cases, generated a lot of really pretty nasty contaminants, a lot of which are still there. And they are sitting underneath the ground at the locations where these plants were situated.
Walter MUGDAN helped create the Superfund law, which helps designated sites get federal dollars to clean up. In the case of the Gowanus Canal, that job could cost nearly $300 million. Mostly the Superfund process tries to hold those who polluted the canal in the first place accountable.
What's going to be difficult, of course, is for people to pony up the money and get the work done. But the Superfund is an enormously powerful tool to achieve that end.
It could, for example, force National Grid to make payments because it bought a company that bought another company that may have originally polluted the Gowanus Canal. But that process can take an average of 15 years to finish, something that could turn developers away.
If it were labeled Superfund and we were looking at the prospect of waiting 15 years to be able to develop there, I would say that we wouldn't be interested. We're not concerned about the money to clean it up. It's just the time.
The Toll Brothers would rather clean up their part of the canal on their own, eventually letting others clean up the canal piece by piece.
That's great for that piece of property. It doesn't do anything about the mud in the canal, and it doesn't do anything about the other properties that are on both sides of the canal up and down.
Those worried about a Superfund site designation aren't just worried about scaring away potential land developers. They're also worried the label will scare away people who use the Gowanus Canal for recreation. Those people include David LEFKOWITCZ, who owns land on the canal. He uses it to throw parties and park his boat, but today he's handing out flyers.
I'm trying to talk to people who live in the neighborhood and find out what they think about the proposed Superfund site.
Zipping through the canal on his boat, LEFKOWITCZ talks about what he calls misconceptions of the Superfund.
A lot of people I've talked to on the bridge think, oh, the Superfund is like Superman. It's just going to come in and it's going to be super. But as far as I understand, the Superfund is not like Superman because it doesn't have any money.
He and others are worried about what kind of stigma the Superfund name will put on their properties.
You know, not only don't I have a value to a developer, but I don't have a value of any sort, and I become at that point a distressed property.
Private property owners are not going to put money into their properties when there's this cloud of the Superfund hanging over it, because they would have to realize that it'd be really difficult to sell condos or rent buildings that are adjacent to what has been designated by the EPA as a Superfund.
The EPA argues that the level of pollution in the Gowanus Canal is well known. Just ask LEAH JAMPEL, who lives in the area but hasn't quite gotten around to canoeing the Gowanus.
I don't quite have the guts to do that yet.
Her bottom line, it doesn't matter who pays for the cleanup, it just needs to get done and quickly.
With all the money that's flying around these days, that should definitely happen. And it should happen all at once. And pretty much the real estate value might go down for a little while, but there's nothing wrong with that if it takes cleaning up the area.
Until then, canal cruisers like LEFKOWITCZ insist that riding the canal isn't as dangerous as it may seem. Sonia Moghe, Brooklyn Review.
Since that story originally aired, the Gowanus has been declared a Superfund site. The EPA estimates that the $500 million cleanup should be complete in about 10 years.
Brooklyn Independent Television on the BCAT TV network.